Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Just Bloom with Kiki Orr. I am so excited about this episode because I get to be at the table. And yes, I am saying table because I feel like the Red Table Talk has nothing on us. Welcome to Harlem Table Talk. No, really, it's Just Bloom with Kiki Orr, as you already know. But I'm joined with my fabulous daughters. You may have heard me talk about them before, but by way of introduction, I'm definitely going to introduce you to them. And we are going to be talking about my virginity, my business, right? Because after all, it is my business. And this is on the heels, I should say, of T.I. and him taking his daughter to the gynecologist on an every year basis to see if her hymen has been broken. I know that people have had a lot of things to say about that. Many disagree. Some actually agree, and I can't fathom how that would be possible, but it is. And so I figured that this would be a great opportunity as me as a mom, single mom, raising 3 daughters, and I had to have the conversation about virginity with them. And so I wanted to be able to talk to you about the conversation about virginity, but also what messages that we get to give to our daughters, what messages that were shared with us as children or young adults, and how that gets passed on to them. And so without further ado, it's not an interview, folks. I just want to be very clear. This is a conversation. We are, at the table. We just had some wonderful sushi. And now, sorry, what did you have? She had seafood. And we have our glass of wine. So we are like really prepared for this conversation. Please allow me to introduce you to my daughters. And by way of preference, we're going to start by the oldest to the youngest. And so Destiny is here. Destiny is 27 years old and an educator and a brilliant creative and an entrepreneur.
Snap.
Yes, sis. She out there educating the youngins. Kindergarten. So just say hello to the people, baby.
Hello, people.
We refer to them as beautiful people. Hello, beautiful people.
Oh, hello, beautiful people.
And then next to Destiny is Amani. AKA, can I say, I can't help it because
I thought she was going to be good and just say, Amani.
No.
Mom, you can't do it.
No, the reason I know that you say that I can't, but the fact of the matter is somewhere along the conversations, because it is a conversation, I am going to, it's going to happen. Okay, and then they're going to be like, who's the 4th person in the room? Okay. So it is Amani, so AKA Tay. Who's the 5th person in the room? AKA Tay. Her middle name is Octavia, so we often call her Tay. So I may go between the two, so I just want to give you the heads up with that. So say hello, Amani.
What's my occupation?
Oh,
excuse me. Somebody got a job now. You better name her stuff.
She out here adulting, honey. She wants y'all to know. You tell her what your occupation is.
It only took me 10,000 years to graduate from college.
You're dramatic. Extra.
My occupation is a PR coordinator.
Okay. I guess we're not giving. No disclosure as to where and for whom. But she's a PR coordinator, and that's pretty dope considering she'd spent a lot of her high school years preparing for that role. So. Congratulations and welcome to adulting.
Oh, fun.
Fun. I'm actually, anyway, pause for another conversation. And then we have baby girl in the room. Sorry.
First off.
Shots fired.
There's one and only baby girl.
There's one baby girl, and that is the first.
And that's the first one.
Get it together.
Destiny
These are
is
just
the
spares.
original. Not like tires.
Tires.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
She's like, I'm okay with that. You're so accepting. So the youngest, is that fair enough? Yeah, the youngest, the last of the last, is Nyla Starr. So Nyla Starr, say hello to the beautiful people.
What grade is she in?
And we'll get, do that. Okay, well, ask the question.
No.
You literally introduced my whole life. Nyla Starr is 13 years old, and she is in the 8th grade. And look, can I just say this? The other day I said to her, Nyla Starr, so when is picture day coming up? And she was like, it's coming up. In fact, it's going to be on the 26th, right? And she said, I have to wear my hair down. And I was like, you have to wear your hair down.
The 26th of November?
Of November, yeah.
Oh, right before Thanksgiving.
That's kind of good, though. Some of the kids get their hair did.
I guess.
So she said, I have to wear my hair down. And in that moment, it struck me that the reason she has to wear her hair down is why? Can you guess?
No.
Come on, y'all. Why you gotta wear your hair down, Nyla Starr? Let them know.
Graduation pictures, stuff like that.
Yeah,
They take the graduation.
No, but she's wearing
cap
cap and
and
gown.
gown.
Oh, they do
They
it
do
that
that
day?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't.
Oh, I know. That's how
Bro, exactly. I'm gonna mean ask. So when's graduation?
I don't know. But can we just stay with the pictures for now? But I got all emo. I was like, oh my goodness, my baby. She's
That's
like
so
over me. I
You're
don't
so
know.
old, Nyla Star.
Oh, are we doing Weavelicious or box braids?
No, because she's not a senior in high school.
That just because that's when you got your first weave.
Exactly. I'm thinking more so along the lines of clip-ins.
Yes.
That's a vibe. That's
Yes.
Just a couple of clip. She don't even know what that is. But
I do know.
you do? Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking here down a couple of tracks, clip in just
Yeah,
to
let's
add
do
some,
that.
and that's what we're gonna do.
a vibe.
Yeah.
She should do microlink.
I was
Okay.
gonna say that
Well, this is
too.
not about microlinks, and this is not about clip-ins.
Sorry, you know when we get together, we just start talking. I don't understand why that's not just the topic.
That's not
the topic is life living.
Life living.
I'm sleep.
But right now we're going to talk about sex. Just straight up, right? Again, but my virginity, my business. And the thing that I was thinking about when I was seeing a lot of the posts is people had been talking about patriarchy and virginity being a construct. And it took me a while to wrap my head around that because I was like, I don't know what that is and what you actually mean about that. And so I'm going to just say this to all of those that are listening in. I don't talk that kind of talk. That's okay. Pour that wine, honey. Pour that wine.
It sounded like, oh.
I don't necessarily talk. Well, I don't even know what that talk is, but all I know is to speak Kikiisms and to be able to share my personal experiences and that of the conversations that I've had with my daughter or lack thereof conversations that I had. So let's just like jump into it, even though we've already been into it, but in particular to this topic. What is your...
Let's just say this also, because I feel like online and in like the Twitter sphere and on Instagram, like you said, people speak in these phrases and use these words that aren't necessarily digestible to all people. So I think during this conversation that can occur and may occur, and I think we're willing to also meet people where they are and speak where it's digestible to all people.
That works. Yeah, because I don't necessarily know that. So I don't know, whatever. But that's excellent, Amani. So with that being said, what is your first memory or the first kind of introduction, if you will, to talking about virginity as it relates to? It doesn't have to even be me. Maybe it was like something in school or television or something. But what's your first kind of memory relating to the conversation around sex or virginity?
Do you know?
No.
I don't actually have a concrete memory of talking about sex or virginity necessarily, but I remember you being mom always saying, like, teaching us about our bodies, like being like, I remember just being in your room one time and I think I was like 6 or something, and you just being like, it can hear me.
Okay, well, okay, go ahead.
I remember being 6 or something, you just being like, your body is for you and no one else. Like, only me and Dr. Kessler or Sina are allowed to like look in your pants like that, which is our doctor, or something like that. I always just remember you telling us like about like periods and like talking about vaginas, but like also we walked around our house naked all the time. So I think it didn't really need an introduction. I didn't need to be like, oh, what is that? Or like, what's a period? What's a vagina? Because you just walked around naked all the time, and so did we. So it was just sort of normal and natural for us. But I don't think I really had had a conversation like that I can remember about like sex until I was like older.
Yeah, we're Harlem hippies.
A mess.
Truly.
But I think it's important to say, I mean, we'll get into the sex conversation, but like important to say in terms of it wasn't walking around naked was also about not sexualizing your children or your mother and being able to be like, oh my gosh, you got to hide your body and all that stuff. That's not what that was about. So we were comfortable. And I think that that's important in terms of being uncomfortable. But it's interesting though, because Nyla Star, and everybody goes through different phases, but what I have noticed with Nyla Star, that is not necessarily the case with her, right? She is very much like, I get out the shower, I'm like, go ahead, what are you going to say, bud?
I mean, that's normal for she's a teenager.
Yeah.
Because I think when our bodies started to change, it was like, nah, I'm good. And then when we got after puberty and stuff, it was like comfortable, like whatever. So
yeah, after
like
it had hit, you're just kind of like, okay.
Whatever. Like, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Like, by the time we're like 18 or whatever, it's like, okay.
But the reason I bring that up is because I think it's, for me, I noticed it, but also in noticing it, there's not a push to be like, girl, I got what you got, girl, you need to just, like, I'm like, is meeting her where she is, right? And it's just like, okay, I'm respecting her body and her privacy, and in that regards, and I even sometimes when like knocking on the room door, I know this has nothing to do with virginity yet, but anyway, I think it's all part of it. They are connected.
Especially, I was gonna say, like, in terms of us like walking around the house naked, all that stuff was just like created a space of like positive body imagery. Like I remember when I was like in middle school, like girls would be like, I hate this, I hate that. And I was just like, what? You hate your body? Like I'm confused. Like it was all of that and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm cool.
Because we were allowed to just like walk around free without anybody saying anything about it. And also just like Nyla was the queen of walking around butt naked.
Bro. No, wore underwear, diapers, out here.
She does. She's just looking like you don't remember that.
She was out here.
I think this would be a perfect place to hear from our sponsor.
This episode is made possible by Chocolate Be Nature, handmade with body butter. Order now at chocolatebenature.com. Stay moisturized, beloved.
I keep looking in this direction because I do remember having when we started to talk about sex. I do remember like literally sitting right over there on the armchair of the couch. I don't just like a vivid memory of mine, and like talking about sex. And I remember Destiny, and maybe I could be mixing things up, but I often remember Destiny saying to me, or remember Destiny having said to me, "You raised us, and like, what is it that you don't trust?" Because I was really starting to become a little bit paranoid, right? In terms of saying no about where they get to go and the parties they get to go to. It was so layered because for me, having grown up and as you know, in the dysfunction that I have, and I was thinking about drugs, and then I was thinking about sex, and I was thinking about boys and taking advantage of, but really what was happening was my own internal stuff that I was I don't want to say foreshadowing, but putting on you guys. And I remember Destiny saying, "Ma, like you raised us, and the way in which you've raised us is different from the way in which you were raised, and the information that you provide. Do you not trust the way you raised?" And so some of y'all might be thinking like, "Oh, that was just a slick way of being able to some like reverse psychoanalytical," but it was real, and it caused me to kind of take a pause and be like, "Do I not trust?" And I was like, and then I said, "Do you remember what I said?" I said I do trust. I was like, it's not y'all that I don't trust. It's them little nappy-headed boys. It's them little nappy-headed boys that I don't trust, right? But that actually, and I'm gonna say this, and then you guys will jump in. But that had me thinking today, right? I was thinking a lot about this. I was like, oh, those nappy-headed boys. But in relation to sex, it's so interesting how we are raised with giving the power to that of the boys, right? And then making everything about the boys and what the boys can say and how a boy can talk you out of your panties and giving your virginity away, losing your virginity, like as if the girl has no, and and understanding that some people may identify if you identify as girl, but giving your virginity away as if you don't have any power, any control over your body, as if you can't make decisions on your own. But I think that's just the way in which, I know that's the way in the messagings that we got. So anyway, I'll just shut up now and like hear what you have to say about that. And I think hindsight being what it is, obviously.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say that was a lot of my first memories were just all about the boys and like you gotta stay away from them because they only want one thing from you. I remember part of that conversation was like, why you only think they want one thing from me? Like I'm smart, like all these things. I was like,
I remember you saying like that. I'm smart.
I'm like, I got a lot of things going for me that wasn't between my legs type of thing. But yeah, it was always that message of like they only want one thing and can never want anything else. Which was, hormone teenagers is probably true. But, it was just that constant message of that's all they want. And, like...
That's all they'll ever want.
And you shouldn't give them
what they want.
What they want or this prize that you have. You're just like, what?
Yeah, I think also when I think about it, I was like, my memory, another one of my memories is like, you just being like, will you tell me when you have sex? And like me being like, we were like, yeah, like we'll tell. Yeah, we were like, yeah, of course we'll tell you. Like we just thought.
Oh no, it wasn't even when. It was like when you're thinking about it.
When you're thinking about it, yeah. When you're
should
thinking
have a
about
conversation.
yeah. And we just thought like at that time we're like, I think because we're just like far away from it, so we're like, yeah, of course, like whatever. And I think we just felt whatever. But I mean, this would just be getting into it, but like, and you obviously felt like, oh, I can tell my mom that I had sex.
But that was after.
Yeah,
I know, but like afterwards, you were like, "Oh, I can tell my mom that I had sex," and it just not be a thing, and then it ended up being a thing. And I think this started a whole thing.
It started a thing because it was a thing.
It was a thing.
Yeah,
and a thing being like, Mom was upset.
Mom was
I
not
think
ready.
you should say the story.
Should I say this?
Yeah, I mean, it's on me.
Oh,
Whatever
are
you're
we here?
comfortable with. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Well, sugar, honey, iced tea. My virginity, my business.
That's right. That's right. They don't have to know. And a whoop. But no, I was going to say you don't actually obviously have to tell the story per se, right? It's not about like the timing or what occurred or the who and the when and the how, that. But I think perhaps maybe even kind of bigger than that, like experientially, what your experience was is when
between you and Mom.
Yeah, between us, like kind of what you thought what it was versus what actually occurred.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I don't know, what was it? I decided, whatever, I had sex.
Yeah.
And I decided to have sex. And I was just like, whatever, let's get this show on the road and get it over with. Yeah. So it happened. Then I called Mom and was like, yeah, so what happened was, she started crying.
Bawling.
And you were scared. I don't know.
I was like at the room door and I was like, Mom was just like I just
I don't know that I cried on the phone with you per se. I think I may have cried after I hung up. I don't remember the details of it.
Destiny was still on the phone, and I'm perched listening at the door. When your room was still now Nyla Star's room, and you were crying. You were just like, I just thought it would be with someone that you were with.
Oh yeah, it always had to be with like a boyfriend or whoever or what have you.
Yeah,
I think someone in a relation.
What we don't say is like all of these stipulations, so to speak, that goes along with it.
And I thought that was the script too. Like, no, we need to be dating, and this needs to be happening. And then it's like, there's no. Are we allowed to cuss? There's no.
You can, actually. Are you listening?
There's no guarantees when it comes to that. So like, whatever. Like, I'd rather just choose when I want, and then I could discard him per usual.
Or because people are married and they end a divorce and whatever.
Yeah,
like, there's no
or when you're just when you're like a teenager or a young adult, and you're having like people finicky.
Relationships sometimes are not long lasting.
Exactly. And sex doesn't make them long lasting.
Oh yeah. But so I think after it's scary. But after hearing Mom's reaction, crying over the phone with you, I was like, I retreated back into the room and was like,
and internalized that to be like,
I can never tell my mom if I ever have sex because she will be sad.
Yeah. Well, Mom. Well, we always have the conversation. If you're thinking about it,
we thought
you should. And so I was like, okay, that's normal. Whatever. That's what she wants. I'll abide by her rule. Like. Of course, it was when I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I already did it.
Right.
But like,
maybe that's probably what it was too. Go ahead.
No, I think you would have.
I can tell you what. Why?
But then I was like, whatever. Well, I still told her that's what she wanted to know.
Yeah.
So it happened, but then it was also like, why are you so pressed?
Yeah.
No, can I just say this is the crazy. Well, and of course, I'm only talking now from hindsight, right? And so looking back on it, I'm thinking like. And this is a whole kind of TI thing and all that's going on. It's like, why did I need to know? Like, why was the knowing so important to me? And I really start to wrap my head around it. And I think the knowing for me was really about wanting to ensure, I don't know what it was, but I thought it was about wanting to ensure like that the person that those stipulations that I talk about, that you were in a nurturing, loving relationship, that somebody wasn't taking advantage of you, that it was consensual, even though I didn't have that language then, that it was consensual, that it wouldn't be like, I thought that sex was definitely closely aligned to that of your emotional well-being, and to that, but that's all the stuff that I grew up with, and I was like, I don't want my child to be hurt, and once you have sex, like all of that stuff was coming up for me, so that's just like, well, let's talk about it. And my aunt used to always say to us, if you can't talk about sex, then you shouldn't be having it. So really wanting to be able to ensure, when I say talk about it, not necessarily talking about it with me, but talking about it with the partner. I think that's fair, right? Yeah. So being able to talk about it. So I think I wanted to be able to have that conversation and say, what did you guys talk about? And what did what did you talk about in terms of that? But when I sit down and really think about it, I think it was more so just that it was more about the relationship. It was more so that I didn't have a parent that actually talked to me about sex amongst a myriad of other things that wasn't a part of our daily conversation. And I think for me, that was about really solidifying our relationship. Like if I really get down to it, it's myriad. Why can't it be like potato? Myriad? Okay, whatever. It's myriad, but y'all know what I mean. But I appreciate you. I think it was really about being able to fill up our relationship. Like that is like, oh, so the moment when I didn't know, to me, I think I personalized it as like, I thought we had an understanding, and I thought you would, and then it's like, who is this person, and what is the type of relationship? And I distinctly remember Destiny being like, Destiny, I love you. I mean, I love you always, but like, definitely at a very young age, that child would be like, listen, lady, like, this is who I am. Don't be putting your stuff all on me. But you said something like, I think you said something about, it's not losing. Like, I didn't lose anything I was like, with all her sassiness and stuff, I didn't lose anything. Which I'm grateful for. Which I'm grateful for, because that means that I've created a space for you to be able to express yourself in that way. But I did cry. And I will say this to any moms that are listening, that my response or my reaction without thinking about it in terms of who was around and who was listening had an effect on Amani in terms of how she would, or if she would, come to me later on. And now that I think about it, that is not even a prerequisite. Like, I wouldn't tell that to Nyla Star today. Like, you need to come to me. Like, I think the conversation is really about, is it safe? Is it consensual?
Just instilling a list of things to make sure she's having a safe, good time.
Exactly.
Safe, good time.
So moving on, that was Destiny's experience. And because Amani heard that, she never told me. And then I cried again.
Well, yeah.
So again, the connection being that about relationship.
Like I recorded that.
You did record it. You sent it to me. But it was just like, it was also
I've been waiting for years.
So it was like, I heard my mom cry, but it also, like, her tears didn't scare me into not wanting to not have sex. I wasn't like, I'm not about to do this because she's about to be sad. Like, I just was like, I'm just won't tell her. Yeah, so
yeah,
I don't want to blast this person, so I'm just not gonna say it. But it happened like not very long after you. So
yeah, same year, I guess.
Yeah, same year, different year, same year, same academic calendar.
Which means that you were younger, obviously, because it's a 3-year age difference.
Yeah, but then, like, when you think about it, like, I followed the rules, you know? Like,
well, actually,
I was in a long-term relationship. Mm-hmm. You knew this person.
Oh, my quote-unquote.
Yeah,
my
stipulations. So, like, I knew this person. I was in a long-term relationship.
You did follow the rules.
What
did I say about you? Well, it's goody two shoes.
I was a rule follower, you know?
But can I just say this? In all of the following the rules but not telling me, let me just tell y'all this. This is the crazy part. So Amani is, well, now she's 25 now, right? But for years.
Okay, wait, let me say this.
Please.
Okay, I used to go to my friends and be like, everyone used to be like, you and your mom and your sisters are like all best friends. I was like, yeah, my mom's my best friend. Like, my mom and my sisters are my best friends. And they're like, oh. And so she knows that you're not a virgin. She's just playing dumb. she was just playing. All my friends were like, she's just playing dumb, and I'd be like, no, guys, like my mom dead ass thinks like I am a virgin, and I was just like, I just don't feel like she's not gonna react well. She's not gonna react well if I tell her. And they're like, Amani, she knows. Like, you just need to say something to her. Like, just say something.
Yes, and then let me for years.
Years.
I was like I was like
16.
Oh,
Girl.
so you was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So was that
That was
last
girl,
year?
It was up to the
Last
year.
year,
She was like, I've had enough of this.
24.
I've had enough.
24 years old after 6. How many years is that?
8 years.
Woo, honey. So let me just tell you, but the problem was, Amani used to get, and now I understand. Now I understand. She used to get so pissed at me because I was holding, and let's talk in terms of the construct of virginity, right? No, this is real.
No, this is real.
In terms of the construct of virginity, like I was holding it as a badge of honor, right?
Holding it
Holding it
As
like something
your
like my badge.
like it was a purple heart.
Real talk. And I'd be like, people be talking, and I'd be like, this is crazy. But people be talking, and they be talking about virginity, and I go like this. Well, you can't see me,
Or
but
talking
imagine,
about, like,
or talking
their
about
kids
their
having
children having
kids.
sex or having children and being like teen parents and stuff. And I'd like hold up my hand and like point, be like, she's still a virgin. Like whispering, like she's still a virgin. And at that point, she's like in her 20s, and I'm like, yes, because to me, it's like you did that. Like I did it. Like I had control over her body, having nothing to do with me, but like I was so excited, and I remember her like being pissed. She's like, "Why do you keep?" It was walking in the door.
You
It
know,
was
we
one
were,
time.
after we were we were on the subway, and it
exactly.
and we were walking into at home, and I was like, and you had told 2 people within 10 minutes. 2 separate people that we'd seen outside.
Your business.
Nah, not my business. Her virginity, her business, but it was so much my business.
That I was still a virgin, and everyone's like, "That's so good for you." But like also like complimenting mom on like being a good mom for me being a virgin. And I was like, "Why do you do that? Why do other people need to know my sex life?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I were not, you would not be saying this. You would not be announcing it to everybody." If I were not. So why do people need to know that I am?
Right.
And I just used to get so mad.
I feel that. I think this is a little off topic, but on topic. But in doing that, I think, especially for Black girls and stuff like that, we, what isn't talked about is a healthy sex life, one, or just being intimate with yourself and knowing your body and knowing what you like and what you don't like and all of just being sexual within just
by yourself.
Or then with someone is just like, okay, like I just have sex and that's just it. Like not even knowing what you need, what you don't need, what works, what doesn't work. Like because it's been so like don't do it, and it's good not to do it. You gotta wait all these years, and then you 30 or 40 and don't even have an orgasm. You don't know what you need to get in. It's just rough.
It's rough. And can I just say, not in addition to that, I always spill the truth, Sarah. But as a 47-year-old woman, what I actually realized is that sexually, even though I have 3 children and had sex and all of that stuff, I am
had a lot.
But I'm very sexually immature. I'm very sexually immature. It's a topic that I sometimes get very uncomfortable when talking to a man. Like even if it's like you talking about like sexting and all of a sudden I get very shy, very bashful, and I'm like, or there's been times, and this is why I think that this is important, because those, as Destiny said, that the things that we don't talk about, there's times that there's conversations that are being had, or there's talking and I'm in the bed and I may want to say, because we want to talk about consent too, right? There's sometimes that I want to say no, but I don't, or I should say I hadn't, or there's things that I don't like and I'll like moan and groan as if I do and I don't. And so those are the things that we're not talking to our children about, right? We're not talking, and I actually wrote it down here, we're not talking about masturbation, right? We're not talking about owning our own body and sexuality just in general, and the intimacy that we get to have with ourselves first before that of another person.
Before involving another person. I think talking about masturbation, especially when it comes to women or femme people, is important because it's very taboo. Like boys or people that identify as male are allowed to they're allowed to masturbate, and it's like talked about. People are like, boys masturbate all the time, or like whatever. Like you see it you hear about it on TV, but you never hear about like a teenage girl or like a young girl like masturbating. And then like you go to college or something and then you hear these stories of like some people do, or like they find it by accident almost.
You just stumble upon it.
You like stumble upon it or something, or like you're at camp and then like all the girls are in one place together and like something happened, like something like that. But like girls aren't often like told like, oh, you can masturbate and it's okay. Like it's still like very taboo.
And so the conversation I think is also is really multi-layered, right? Because you're talking about our blackness and what that looks like in terms of black parents and the conversation of sex and the fact that I don't want to say facts, but that we haven't talked about it in a very healthy way, right? And then there's the religion aspect of it, right? There's religion that plays a part in it, and like, oh, you're not supposed to do it before marriage, and what does that look like? Or or there's a time frame that's allotted to it, so no, like 30, 60, 90 days, and then do this and all. So much stuff around it, as opposed to just like, I get to own my sexuality and you know, if I want, do I get to give in to my desires or my needs? And does that make me less of a does that make me a hoe or promiscuous if I decide? Because here's the deal. There are boys, or people identify as boys, I mean, are out there like going, yeah, get that, right? And they have like get the notches on their belt for all of the women that they have sex with. But who would be these people? Like how do we have two different rules? Boys go out there and get that, but who are they supposed to be getting it from? Clearly it's somebody's daughter, right? Or not, but you know what I mean. Clearly
that's also the thing. Well, whatever. But when talking about sex with your children in general, I think a lot of parents just are like, don't let a boy. They automatically assume that their child is heterosexual.
That's another,
And I mean, obviously, to the two of us, like mom saying like, don't let a boy. It was just like whatever, because we like boys, so it doesn't matter. But like,
what if that wasn't the case?
What if that weren't the case? That would like further shame us into like anything. It's like, if she doesn't want us to do the heteronormative, which is an acceptable thing, then what would she think if we were to have sex with a woman?
Yeah.
So I think parents need to be like really careful with their words when they're talking about sex, and just say the person you choose to have sex with. And then I think that also gets rid of he's taking something away from
the person you choose.
The person. It will take away the language of like he is taking, or like you can just say, I mean, you can change it to they, but like either way, no one is taking anything.
And it's choice, right?
Yeah,
it's like I'm at choice.
It's choice. As long as you are choosing it.
Yeah.
Oh, what I recall about your conversation, I said we did that. We talked about masturbation. We talked about consent. I got this actually book. This is the...
Did we talk about consent?
We actually didn't talk about... Because consent generally... When does consent generally... Well, that's not true.
It's different for different people, and it looks different in different ways, but also, like, consent is just not at the beginning.
That's right. And it's not just relating to sex. Right.
Yeah, like, it goes through the whole thing. Like, in the middle, if you're like, I'm not really feeling this... Or if you like want the person to stop, like you are allowed to say, I would like for you to stop. And like the person should also check in on you and be like, are you okay? Like, can I continue? Whatever, X, Y, and Z.
Does this feel good, baby? Does this feel good? Oh, yes.
I'm done.
I mean, that's because check-in doesn't, no, because check-in doesn't necessarily mean like,
are you
okay? Like, that's like, how's it going?
Yeah. Right, because for certain people, like for one person, consent may be like, even like, can I kiss you? Whereas, like, for me, I would rather a person not ask if they can kiss me before they kiss me, and just do it. And I'm okay with that because I can say, like, I didn't like that. And that doesn't necessarily take anything away from me personally, but I get to let them know that, like, that wasn't for me. Because I feel like sometimes when someone asks, I'm like, oh.
And just like,
you kind of just ruined it. For me.
Right. Everybody's different. Yeah. But also we talk about, I think as growing up, when I think about the first conversation, we didn't obviously call it consent then, but the conversation, it was really about someone, and that's not even consent because no child would be consenting to someone touching them inappropriately, but generally that kind of conversation was around like nobody should touch you, like when I was telling you about only your doctor should be looking, like it's always generally around someone doing something to cause you harm.
Well, I think a lot of times in Black families,
why your voice dropped all of a sudden?
I'm sorry.
That's like all of a sudden
I
it
just
got
think
dark.
a lot of times in Black families, that is really a conversation that parents often have to have with their children because
Everybody got that one uncle.
Everybody got that one uncle. Enough said.
Mhm.
No, but seriously,
Or aunts, because don't put it just
right,
on.
or aunts,
You right.
or person.
Or person,
Everyone has that
or-
one person in their family that is number one still allowed to be around your family. So
You got
so
to
your
have
family
this-
has to warn you or have this conversation that like no one should ever do X, Y, and Z without actually telling the
your
child.
own family.
Anyway, but yeah, I think it's important for parents to not just talk about consent when it comes to like
The scary, like
the
stuff that's scary, right?
Yeah, like also like don't
No,
talk
but
about
I
sex
think
like
it's so
scary.
funny. Yeah, that. But
Say
you
that
know,
again? But I missed that. What'd you say?
Like don't talk about sex like it's scary.
no,
That's
but
important.
it's weird because we talk about consent at a very early age with children
Come on,
all the
teacher.
time. You like, oh no, you can't just go up and hug your friend, or you can't just take. You have to ask them. You have to check in with them if that's okay. Like we do it up until a point. Then I don't know what happens between like at middle school. Things get real. We stop doing consent,
Mhm.
and then high school things get fuzzy, and it become like. Okay, now we gotta talk about sexual consent, but sort of not really. Then college is just a hot mess, and then people are young adults and out here just doing whatever,
Doing things that they're
not like and they're like, oh, I didn't know,
or I didn't learn that.
I didn't like.
Well, but the thing is that I didn't learn that is probably not true,
It's
right?
not. It's not true because from you've been taught literally, you can't just take someone's truck. You need to ask that friend. You can't just go up to kiss your friend. You need to ask them if they want a kiss or a hug. Like there's so much priming.
or like
is
ask
that the
her if you can
consent?
use that toy.
Yeah, you don't just snatch
Snatch
it.
it.
There's so like everything you do in schooling or just being in a relationship with someone is consent based.
Right.
And it gets weird and like, but like, oh, that's not consent. No, you've always been asking if you can do X, Y, and Z. You don't go up to people and take their stuff.
So wait,
Unless you're
what
a
do you say?
colonizer.
That's why these white men be in trouble because they don't.
So wait, but what are you saying? Are you saying that then it's not plausible for someone once they get to college to then pretend like they've never learned about consent?
I
or
think that one too, but
Uh-huh.
I think we also stop the conversation. The conversation doesn't continue because we think because they've been taught all these years, they get to be 12, 13, 14, whatever. Then we don't.
It's been taught in a certain framework.
Yeah.
Like of like asking for toys or asking for
The
things that
framework
seem like
needs
normal.
to change, but also maybe not. And it's just like
that continues.
just keep asking if you
Right.
can do X, Y, and Z to someone's body
Or an object that
or
they're
an
holding.
option. Just you still need to ask.
Yeah, but it's so
The script don't change because you got your penis in somebody.
right. But also it's interesting because in preparation or thinking about this talk, I'm thinking about the things that I may have said to Niall Starr in relation to sex or not sex necessarily, right? And then it gets to a teenage year, and then all of a sudden it becomes like a taboo conversation. All of a sudden for me, it becomes weird, like because I think sometimes for parents, it's like if I talk about this too much, am I in essence giving her? This is how some parents think. Am I saying to her, you can go out and do it? But even if that's not the message, but even if she does, then wouldn't it be okay in the sense that I've like educated her and shared with her? The worst thing that I can do is to stop having the conversation and she not being prepared, because I know that everything that I learned in relation to sex was through other young girls' stories, right? And it was generally not a good. Let me tell you, in junior high school, anyway, baby, and in junior high school, the conversation was about what they did or being in the closet, and I distinctly recall. When I come back to school, I was like, I'm not going to be a virgin because I wanted to be part of the conversation. Like I felt left out in that regards. And so I went, had sex. And then when I think about it, I was like, I don't know that I really necessarily had sex. I don't think it was really in. I think it was just hitting up the side of the, I don't think we really, really did it. But I can say that I did, but it was all about just being down. And no one really had the conversation. And I remember when my grandmother, because my grandparents raised me, I remember my grandparents was talking about that. We talked about sex a little bit, but not really. Let me say this. I got pregnant prior to having my children. Like as I was a teenager.
Wait, can I just say
Yes,
this?
sure
When
can.
you were like, I don't think I really had sex, because then you have to be like, what is sex? Because like for two different people, like sex like people just think like you need to be penetrated.
Well, that was my definition then.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
that
No,
need to
thank
be,
you for
like,
clarifying that, right? Because
penetrated vaginally, but like you could have had anal sex or like
right,
and
or
you
oral,
or oral, and you, I mean, you're still having sex or
Right.
like whatever.
But for me, growing up back then, my definition was penetration. So I didn't feel like I was really penetrated. I was like, he didn't know what he did. I was like, he didn't do it. He didn't do it, and he didn't even know that he
Girl,
didn't do it.
how many redos you got? You're like, that wasn't done right. Sorry,
Sorry,
not on my list.
nobody got one.
Delete.
But I remember when as a teenager, I got pregnant, right? Like before I had my, I got
like
pregnant.
15?
No, I was, oh, I'll never forget. This is a horrible story. I was like,
Oh, we ain't got to share it.
we ain't got to share. No, it's, I mean, not about the sex part. No, the part, let me just tell you what's hard. The sense that I got pregnant. And then I went to like my girlfriend's house and I like started bleeding, but I didn't know that I was pregnant. Like, and I just started like bleeding and I was like, I think something was wrong. Anyway, I went to my friend's house and then I left her house and then I went home on a train and then I wound up going to Harlem Hospital because I was like, something is wrong. And then my grandparents had to come to the house. I had a friend of mine. This is why we need to talk to our children. Because I called a friend of mine who was of age, like she was like 20 or 21. At the time, I think it was like 17. She was like 20 or 21. So I was like, she's my legal guardian. Somewhere or another, because she out to my HIPAA laws, but clearly there was no HIPAA laws back then. Because I was like, she's my guardian, but she wasn't really my guardian. And they went out and called my grandparents anyway. They wound up calling my grandmother. And,
well, you was lying.
Because I was lying. But how do you know I was lying?
Because she's 20 and you 17.
She was my sister.
Say like it's 1985. This girl ain't gonna let me in.
I'm done.
Listen, whatever. So, but the long and the short was, it was then that I found out that I was pregnant. I was actually miscarried. So I had a miscarriage. And she, and I remember the reason I bring this up is because I remember my grandparents saying, I thought that you knew about sex and protection, but you know why they thought that I knew about that? Because we were watching, I used to come home all the time and I used to watch after school specials with them and I used to watch Oprah Winfrey show, and so there were things that I'd be yelling at the television or saying, and so based upon the commentary that I had with the television, they thought that I was informed. So that was their way of like, oh, she knows because she's saying, oh, that girl is something else. Oh, she shouldn't be doing that. But nobody actually really had the conversation with me, right? So the things that I learned, I had to learn on my own. And I think, obviously, I believe that the times have clearly shifted and changed, and that's not the case. But I still do believe that we can do a better job, clearly, based upon what Mr. T.I. is doing and bringing his daughter. And
yeah, well, when I was watching The Real the other day, or I was watching like clips of it, and the conversation was like, how do you feel, is 13 too young to have your kids like talking about like sex? And everybody was sort of like up in arms about it, and like or maybe it wasn't 13, maybe it was a little bit younger, and they were just saying like, I don't want this teacher or this woman or person to come talk to my kid about sex while I'm not there. Like, I feel like it's a conversation for the parents, or like, can't the teacher teach the parents?
They have talks for that for teachers.
Yeah, but can't the teachers teach the parent, and then the parent go and regurgitate the information to the child, whatever. But I think it's so crazy and so interesting that parents have this strange ownership over their children, and then they tell their children that like nobody's in charge. Like, yes, you can ensure your child's safety, but then nobody's in charge of your body and like who you are as a person, and you treat your child to have some sort of autonomy, and then like all of a sudden it's like you're in charge of that, the parent is in charge of that autonomy, and it's just like they're so like protective over that. And so one woman, I think it was Tamara, was saying that she wants to be taught the information so then she can say it to Aiden, because Aiden's getting like, he's like talking to girls and like getting interested in that stuff, but like also she was like also feeling that he's like too young to like know like every piece of information. And I'm like, what is too young to know every piece of information? Because then I'm like, this person is walking around with these pieces attached to them at all times from when they were born. And people sometimes, and like this isn't talking about it in a negative way, but some people sometimes take advantage of them in a way, and they don't know what is going on. They have no idea what is happening to them, what somebody is touching, why this is inappropriate, and but they know that they feel wrong. But I feel like you should explain to your child that like sex like you explain to your child that like it's a part of your body. Like you would just teach them like their shoulder is their shoulder, like your penis is your penis, a vagina is a vagina, whatever body part that you have. And like you can teach them about sex later on, but I think about teaching them about like themselves and about their health and about
how you care for it, and what
like
function it serves.
Of course.
And that it's not just to pee.
Right, it's not.
It's really not just to pee, and I think it's important, especially because people are feeling like, oh, like people always say like we should teach boys, like boys should learn earlier on than girls. I'm like, there's no one should learn earlier than anybody. No, we all need to be learning at the same time, and there doesn't need to be a gap in like this learning.
I completely agree. And when you have, there's people that go out and like we just had at our school, there was like somebody comes in and talk sex is a funny word, and there's like a whole forum for parents to hear from this person talk about sex, the word sex, and they have like little books that are like very much age appropriate, but they talk about like how babies are made, and it's not from a goddamn store. Like they like talk about it, and there's a part, and it goes like all the things that you need to know. Right, it doesn't have all like the crazy like scientific names, all that stuff. Right, like children are young, but they should know these things.
They get to know that they don't need to know that like it's between intimate partners.
Or like I be having kids in our class. Like when you're married, then you can have babies. I was like, that's not true.
Sorry.
And then one girl was like, she was like, no, when you're married, then you can have I said, my parents weren't married, I'm here.
I'm born.
And she was like, no. I said, girl, you can be married, but if you're not, then that's okay. Which is like, bruh, marriage does not equate children.
But I just want to check in really quickly. I know we've been talking a long time, so I'm checking in terms of our listening audience. And I know the topic of the conversation was my virginity, my business. And again, this is a multi-layered conversation, and I think it's, we're talking about the wholeness, right? The whole. I think, in fact, the school has this class. They don't call it sex ed anymore. They call it a reproductive class. And I was like, reproductive? I thought that was weird. I was like, because I'm thinking reproductive in terms of like child rearing. They're like, no, it's like their whole. Well, they're talking about the whole part, right? Like, because then you start to get into gender and like sexuality, all of that stuff.
I think they should rename it though, because reproductive or reproduce is from reproduce.
I mean, health would suffice.
Yeah, but then the point being is that it seems like we may be all over the place, but I think it's all interconnected. In the sense that you don't before getting to sex or the act of sex, there's these whole other things that we get to talk about, right? As we mentioned, we talk about consent. We talk about autonomy over our bodies. We get to talk about intimacy with ourselves. We get to talk about the conversations and the things that we pass on to our children, and it's all really, really layered.
But yeah, can we actually talk about the T.I. thing?
Oh yeah.
Because so I saw the headlines and I was just like, oh, he goes with her to the gynecologist like every year since when? Like too often, like at all. I don't know why he's with her. One, but then two, he states like in the podcast that like, you can break your hymen different amount of ways. Blah blah blah.
The doctor says that.
Huh?
The doctor says that. She could break it.
He's telling her all these things, like all these things that how the hymen can break. But it was like, well, her hymen's still intact. Like, so if it weren't intact because she did X, Y, and Z, what you gonna do?
Nothing.
What can you say?
Right.
They can't tell you why it's not intact.
Exactly.
Because I don't think my hymen was intact. I think
you broke it.
I broke when I was like 7.
Yeah, on a bike.
On a bike.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's not a good measurement of virginity. Virginity is just stupid.
Right. So
I just don't understand. I think I believe it to be sick. that you take your daughter to the gynecologist and ask about her hymen. Because one, as a man, like that just feels weird, it feels creepy, it feels like you have control over her body. And then like, okay, then she goes to be with the man, and then like what is the message to her? Like what men can control, like is it don't let a man control you, blah blah blah, or are you giving her over to another man to control her body? Like
here's
what are
my
you
dowry
doing?
so you can have my daughter.
Like what is this? It is
Good question. Would you feel the same way, playing devil's advocate for a minute? Not really devil, but whatever. What if it was a mom that was? Is it about him going, or more so about his intent?
No, it's about him going and then him being like, give me these results about her hymen.
Right. Okay. Right.
It's creepy. It's sick. I think that
I
some
agree.
men with daughters are just fucking sick. And I don't know what it is about this hyper, like, that's my daughter and that's my baby and I'm her first love and this is... It's sick. You her daddy.
But you know that there are women who are like that with their sons. Like, that's my son and that's my baby, and the women can't. You be like, your son, not your like,
not your lover.
Yeah.
It is oh my god.
I agree. I think people are concerned about like HIPAA laws and blah blah blah. But she signed over. She apparently has signed it over to him, which is like,
what? Why? She's scared.
I was gonna say, was she coerced into? And let's say she wasn't. Like, I also was like, let's just talk about this, and let's say like she wasn't, and she has like a really good relationship with her dad, and like, but then you think about it, like if she has a good relationship with her dad, like why can her word just be the truth?
Exactly.
And it's weird. Exactly. Is the mom not going? The mom ain't going to this. And the mom probably saying like, "Oh, that's so cute. He loves her so much, and they have a good relationship." No, the shit's fucking sick.
But then it's also weird because like I think a year ago almost now that the little son who was like 13 had already said that he was having sex.
Yeah, and
she was like, "What? Like you're too young." Like what? But it. Based on the show, I'm not gonna say, but based on the show, it seemed like it was okay. It is what it is at 14. This point, but like we don't know how they actually acted inside of their home, like whether or not she was like
whatever. It was like,
but like whatever image that you were whatever image that you were willing to put out to the world was the image that you wanted us to know, and so I'm gonna go based off of that. You wanted us to think that it was fucking okay for your son to be having sex at 14 years old, which is like.
Whatever.
To each their own, but like have the same standards for everybody.
Right. There's also a book called The Girl's Guide to Sex Education by Michelle Hope. Over 100 honest answers to urge. She is black. I actually met with her and sat at the table with her, and she's actually part of this reproductive class that they're looking to have at Nyla Star School.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so she wrote this book, Over 100 Honest Answers to Urgent Questions About Puberty, Relationships, and Growing Up. But I just kind of highlighted
that book.
Yes. But I just highlighted this time. So I just highlighted some things like that she had in the book. Like, what is aversion? What does it mean to lose your virginity? And I think we talked a little bit. I don't know that we necessarily gave an answer. We gave our answer.
You don't lose your virginity.
Mm-hmm.
You choose to. It's nothing.
What the fuck?
You decide to have sex at one time.
You were not sexually active at one point in your life, and then now you are.
Right.
But like, what does sexually active mean? Because like, it's
right. Because what about if I'm touching myself? Is that not sexually active?
That's a good point. Touch themselves.
You were girl. My kindergarten is like, Jesus. They be going to town. I'll be like, okay. Well, complete then. I see you, sis. But yeah.
Right. So like but I think I'm just going to like kind of high level, and then I think this is something that parents can begin to have conversations with their children. Like, what is...
Well, maybe sexually active could be having intercourse with another person.
Okay. So what is aversion? What does it mean to lose, quote unquote, your virginity, right? And then we don't get to talk about like what happens during sex, or what can happen during sex. What does sex do for people? Like, why do even people... Because we were talking about sex. Not everybody actually have a desire to have sex. Right?
Exactly. There are a lot of people that don't care.
That ain't me though. But
bro, you know, some months, some sleep.
That's not me. But like,
some months, some years.
And then like, will my hymen break the first time I have sex? So these are some of the questions that she has in her book.
Are you reading this with Nyla?
We will.
Nyla,
we have not. Nyla Star.
You should read this with mom.
Yeah.
Or
And
read it on
from
your
your
own
own.
and then ask questions.
At what age is it okay to start having sex?
What age is okay to start having
Yeah,
sex?
what do you think? What age do you think is okay to start having sex?
No, like, because we've
Do you
already
have
had
an
sex.
Did you think there's an age that is appropriate? Even if you like in your mind, like
Yeah,
it's
well,
not.
say whatever. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Any age?
Okay.
That's okay.
Like, and
Well,
so
like,
6 years.
I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
choose any age.
Yeah.
For anybody?
Oh, why is there a difference if you're a boy or a girl? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yes,
for
any
anybody.
age.
Any age.
17, 16.
Okay. And why is there a reason why you think that, or you just feel that way?
Because not too old. I don't know.
Okay.
You know.
Are there something about 10th graders or 11th graders that you know that are different from your age? Like, why didn't you choose your age?
Because 13 is too young.
Why
in
is
my
it?
opinion.
Yeah, but why is it too young?
Not saying that there's a plan. I don't know.
You think they just have more information?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But question for you: do you know? Are there people? Are you aware of people that are your age that have sex?
Yeah.
My Lancer. What is sex to you?
Yeah.
What is sex to you? Like, what does that mean if somebody's having sex? Is it kissing? Is it hand holding? Because some people have
for
this
a really
misnomer.
long time when we were in high school,
The term was hookup.
the term was hookup, and like we'd be like, I hooked up with this person this weekend, and like, but me and my friends would say we hooked up with this person this weekend.
Hookup was just kissing.
But but we would think it was just kissing. But you, when you were in college, started to be like, no, like that means you had.
It was going on.
That means you're having sex, which is like hook up to certain people are totally different things.
So that's why I'm asking you. What is sex? How do you define sex? Like, what does it mean to you to have? Not that you're having sex. But what does it mean to have sex? What is sex to
What
you?
is sex?
What is sex? Like, what happens during sex?
But we just want to know what you know of it this far at being 13 and not really I don't know if you've had a conversation with mom or not.
Have we?
Okay, yeah. So like, what do you know about sex?
There's a girl, there's a boy, and then
They do that. What that look like?
What does that mean? No, seriously,
Okay,
what does that mean?
Finger in the hole.
That's the finger in the hole is what
But
she's
there's
demonstrating
many.
to us.
Okay, but there.
No,
are
I'm just saying for the people that are listening,
Oh.
she did the finger in the hole.
But do you know you have a butthole? And there's a vagina hole or vaginal, whatever. There's multiple holes that you have. So what is this long thing inside of a hole?
But so for you, that's what you're saying. It's the can I say it? And are you?
What is
No,
it?
What is
Mom.
it? Sorry.
sure, say it.
No.
No, you should say it, Nyla Star. Because like, do we even know if you know what it is?
This is true. I don't know.
But that's not. You can't expect us to know that we know that you know what it is.
You gotta show us your work. Well, this is how you know when people are too young to have sex and they can't even tell you what the vagina and the penis is.
That would be a good indicator if there's any litmus, right?
But do you feel uncomfortable talking about it in general, or do you feel uncomfortable talking about it with us?
In general, it's like weird.
Okay. So you like don't talk about it with your friends. So if like one of your friends mom asked you, do you know someone that's having sex? But do you know one of your friends having sex?
Mm-hmm.
So they.
Well, she
But
said
not
it
my
already.
friend, they're associate.
Okay, so do they talk about it in like a group setting?
No,
Then how do you know?
only to me and Madison.
Oh, so they talk about it to the two of you guys.
Yeah.
And are
That's
you
good.
just
That's intimate.
No, that is, but like, are you like okay, or
Cool
do
story,
you
bro.
like do you engage in conversation with it?
Like-
No, not
You just be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, why are you telling us this?
okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, cool. So we talk about at what age is it okay to start having sex? Are other people my age having sex? Like questions like this. So it's a great book. And wrapping up, one of the things that I asked them to do was to what did I ask you to do, Amani? What was
she asked? She asked
Mom asked for us to write down 3 things we could have told our younger selves, or something that we could have shared with Nyla Star.
Right.
So
In relation to
relationship to virginity or sex.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sorry, are you listening?
Mhm.
I would like to engage in eye contact, please. So I have a long list. Mom said 3, but like whatever. Okay, so this is my list of things that I would like for you to know about sex. 1, it can be whatever you want it to be. For example, it can be fun. It could be casual, meaning like, oh, like I see this boy on Wednesdays and then like I never want to see him again. Or like I see him on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I see Tom and Jerry on Thursday and Sunday. Or it could be something that you do with one person that you just like want to have sex with one person and one person only. 2, virginity is not something someone else can take and you're not at a deficit. So like when you have sex, it's not like someone's taking your virginity away from you or you're not losing something or...
Unless they do. And I know we're not talking about that, right? But unless they do.
Yes, because there are certain situations and cases of rape, which is someone is actively taking something away from you without your consent. And I also want to say there is not necessarily a right or wrong time to have sex. Like you don't need to have sex before you don't need to have sex before marriage. You don't have to wait until after marriage.
Just make sure you're in a nice clean bed and you feel comfortable and safe. No closets or staircase. Like just Lord Jesus, just make sure you're in a bed somewhere. No.
What if you kind of want to get down in the staircase?
Or in the cabin and lobby.
Yeah.
Cab in the lobby.
Or the backseat of the car.
Eventually.
Or the B.
You have to work your way?
You gotta work your way up.
You have to work your way backwards?
Yeah, you do.
But you
start. Yes.
But the first time you should be on plush pillows.
I feel like yes.
And those plush pillows, now, are you listening?
That's
can
all I'm
be
saying.
your own plush pillows. It can be in your home. Like, don't feel afraid that you can't bring someone in your home if that's where you feel the most comfortable
and safe. Yeah.
For real. I'm being dead serious right now. Okay, we talked about consent. Consent is key.
Let me think about it. I don't believe it.
Well, because Destiny Woman's like, why are you always at my house? Okay. Consent is key. So consent means like you talking to the person, like you being like yes, and that just doesn't mean at the beginning, but that means like throughout it, if you're feeling like, ooh, I don't want this anymore, get off of me, then you can say, get off of me, and the person needs to listen. Got it?
If they don't, you knee him in the balls.
No, it's not about you.
But it's like what I would tell my younger self. If I could have told my younger self, I could have said no midway through 1,001 times. It would be wonderful. I mean,
but you didn't feel like you were taken.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't feel like I was being taken back, but I was like, ugh.
I'm done.
I want this to be
over. Something like that. It's not about you, but we're also related. Like you said to us earlier, we've all had sex before, and like we also get to reiterate this to ourselves because
it's not.
It's a message that doesn't. Yeah,
it doesn't stop. That's right.
It's a message that doesn't stop.
I already said I'm 47 years. I'm still having these conversations with myself.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh gosh.
Okay, girlfriend.
Oh no.
Okay, and this is in no particular order, by the way. It's no particular order, but have fun. Like it's something that can be fun and enjoyable, and like.
Because that's another myth that people tell people. They're like, oh, it's painful, it hurts, and if that's not if you have a discussion about it and they've done well and if
you don't have any prior issues like endometriosis or anything, then it shouldn't be painful or not fun or whatever. So it can be fun. Or sometimes you can just do it because you're trying to have a baby, and sometimes that's not fun.
And sometimes it doesn't have to involve another person. It could just involve you.
Be safe, and sexual health is important. And sexual health means a number of things, like STD checks. It means birth control, and you can use birth control in a number of different ways, and so you don't have to lie like I did and just say that you need birth. Well, I wasn't really lying because I did need it for my period. But
Lord Jesus.
But like, if you need birth control, you should get on birth. You should feel comfortable enough to ask mom, like, I would like to get on birth control. Like, is that possible? Or you don't even have to ask mom because mom don't need to be fucking involved. So you can go to Sina, who we love and trust, right? And not that we don't love and trust mom, but
Sina.
Sina is a healthcare professional.
Oh, you telling the folks?
Yeah,
okay.
Sina is our healthcare professional that we've known since Nailastar is known since she was born. So you can go to Sina Nailastar and just say, like, I would like to be on birth control. And Sina actually gave me birth control and would ask me questions privately without mom even knowing.
Because that's what
good parents do, right? They leave out the
good parents are good doctors.
I would say doctors, but she hopped on it.
Mom was like, good parents. Fuck the doctors.
good parents create space and step out inside the room.
You have to leave.
You have to
Well,
She tell you to leave.
Okay, well, whatever. But I could
What you
still.
do?
I,
I'm all about I create the space.
That's right.
I created the
But
space.
I didn't antagonize y'all thereafter. Be like, wish, or
What's
I didn't
she
do it,
saying?
or I didn't go back in the room and be like, hey, so
What's-
between me and you.
But she can't
But
do
She
I
that.
know
knows
she
she
really
that's
couldn't,
we're
but-
her patient.
Yeah, whatever.
Anywho,
Go.
wow.
What's your list?
Well,
Sorry, I really dragged that on.
I mean, you did well, sis.
Thanks, sis.
I didn't do my homework.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say was that sex can be between you and you, and you can start there because you know it makes you feel good. And
But
then
can we also just talk about like you and you? Like you and you is so like broad, you know? Like I feel like, you know, when people talk about sex and they're like, don't sleep with that person. You know, I think I've heard the stories like people are like older people. I've heard the stories like I didn't sleep with that person. You told me not to sleep with the person. So people are thinking don't close your eyes and go to bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
old people.
It's like people that were born in like the 1950s.
That's interesting.
That is
So,
interesting.
but like they had sex.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
they would say, you told me not to sleep with the person.
Oh, wow.
What a concept.
Because we use
Wow.
like
We
code
do.
But you can have
language.
sex
Yeah.
with them, but not sleep in the same bed.
Right.
Yikes.
But it's just like you don't know that's not the taboo thing. The taboo
That's
thing is
funny.
you sleeping in
That's interesting.
Okay, what did I do with what the fuck I just said?
Yeah.
because you said
You
You
and
and
you.
you.
And she's saying that you and you is so general. What are you really saying?
Oh, you can have
Be
sex
direct.
by yourself.
Well, by yourself.
With
could be-
yourself, by yourself.
with
you
your
don't need
hands.
you don't need
or
another person
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
to get off. Also, always wear protection. Don't let nobody tell you that they allergic to nothing. And if they're allergic to something, they better have that lamb skin or something else. Lies, lies, lies. And it don't feel better without the condom. Lies.
Amen.
You know what feels best? Not being
Amen.
pregnant or having an STD.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best
That's the
feeling in
best-
the world.
Yes.
Well,
Well, not just saying. Okay, yeah, that is the best feeling. It is the best.
Well,
feeling.
the best feeling,
But-
and I feel like we don't have
I
to
was-
quantify it because I think people know that
But,
she's
like,
not
you
saying
sh-
anything against pregnancy, but just
Not
pregnancy
just
before.
pregnancy,
Well, pregnancy.
or people who have STDs. Like,
No, I'm specifically talking about pregnancy. But
Uh-huh.
if it's not, I'm not ready to have.
oh, yeah.
No, well, we're having a conversation
This is
with
true.
her about the hair,
Oh, we're having the
For-
here and the now.
the hair in the now, but also like the foreseeable future in the next 3 or 4 years.
No, totally.
I feel like, you know, once you get a little bit, when you become an adult, then
Mhm.
you can differentiate what's, you get to
Someone's
make other
other
choices
choices.
because you're an adult.
Mhm. And
When you're not an adult and we're talking about pregnancy and all this other
Yeah,
shit,
right.
somebody got to take care of that and it won't be you.
Right.
Amen.
All right now.
Amen, mommy.
And then, yeah, like Amani said, have fun, explore.
Mm.
You don't have to be beholden to a one person, one gender.
Mm-hmm.
So in closing, again, my virginity, my business. You have autonomy over your life, over your body. Consent, safety is what we promote. But above all of that, I think what's most important is that parents are in conversation, communication, and sharing with their children. And you will get a sense. We really don't know what is a good time versus not a good time. And I think that you will get some of those cues from your child and you will take those cues and act accordingly. But don't just take it for granted that they know things, because I think that would be a mistake. And then we'll be dealing with the repercussions of that later, possibly. So be open to having a conversation. And if you can't, because I think that there's some parents that are just are not willing. If you can't, then get somebody that you trust to be able to have that conversation for you. But like it would be a disservice to your child to not have a conversation with them and teach them about communicating about their sexual wants, needs, and desires. So with that being said, we're here to plant seeds and watch you grow, girl.
Grow, girl.
Hey.